뭐라고 있어?
At the beginning of the story, we are told that more than 300 criminals escape overseas every year, and most of them are hiding in Southeast Asia and commit more crimes against Korean tourists and businessmen. In 2008 in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, there were two men named Choi Young-gi. Choi was the son of a wealthy businessman, and Jong-hoon offered a good land location that would be used as a place to build Choi's resort. Jong-hoon tells that there is a car rental businessman who wants to meet with Choi. He's named Kang Hee-sang. Kang Hee-sang asked Choi to get in the car, and while they were talking, it turned out that Kang was not a car rental businessman but a criminal who was kidnapping Choi. As the scene changes, a man escapes from a mental hospital and takes hostages in a convenience store. The police could not do anything because the perpetrator used a knife. Then, Seok-do came. Seok-do asked his friend to distract the hostage taker while Seok-do entered through the back door. The funny thing is that Seok-do accidentally nudged the food shelf because his body was too big. And because he was caught, Seok-do went ahead without hesitation and beat him up.
잘 내려놓으라고 있어.
Moments later, Seok-do and his friend are at the office. The captain meets them and asks Seok-do to go to Vietnam to bring back one of the three criminals named Jong-hoon, the man we saw at the beginning of the scene, because Jong-hoon turned himself in Vietnam. Seok-do needs one more person who can speak English. Then the captain offered himself. Seok-do then asked if he spoke English. The captain casually showed off his English even though what he said was the food menu.
I like to order salad first.
After arriving in Vietnam, they were even checked by security because no one could speak English. Then, they met with the consulate officer, named Park. Park invited them to eat together. Long story short, the next day, the captain and Seok-do interrogate Jong-hoon why he turned himself in. Jong-hoon just said he was sorry. Not satisfied with his answer, Seok-do resorted to violence to get him to talk. Jong-hoon told him that his friend JD tried to kill him. They then went to JD location, which was obtained from Jong-hoon. But since they didn't have a license to investigate and arrest him, because they were abroad, they made a silent arrest. When they entered JD house, they found JD had been murdered. They then tell Park and find Jong-hoon again to ask for more information about why JD was killed. When asked, Jong-hoon did not want to tell anything and only wanted himself arrested. Suspicious, Seok-do tries to get rid of Jong-hoon and let him go free. But out of fear, Jong-hoon finally started to tell what happened. At first, Kang persuaded Jong-hoon and his friends to kidnap Choi Young-gi. On the way, after beating up Choi, they argued because the amount of money they got was not much. Choi, who saw that, took advantage of it to run away. Choi persuaded Jong-hoon, JD and one more friend to run away together and promised to give him more money and the gold he kept in the hotel. But Kang appeared in front of them and killed Choi. One of Jong-hoon's friends was angry because if Choi was killed they couldn't get any money, and Kang's friend from behind stabbed him and killed him too. Night. Jong-hoon and JD will bury the bodies of the two people who were killed earlier. Before being buried, Kang cut off Choi's arm and photographed the arm along with Choi's identity card, then sent a message to Choi's father to ask for ransom, even though Choi was already dead. 2 days later, he was paid, and JD and Jong-hoon escaped, and for a few days, he felt like someone was following him. He felt Kang sent his men to kill him. Then they tried to ask permission to look for the corpse of the murdered victim, but because the license will only come out after 1 month, they searched without using a permit. After successfully finding the bodies of the victims' bodies, then Seok-do called one of his friends to find out about Kang, and it turns out that 3 days ago, a local Korean thug named Raku was also looking for Kang. Seok-do asked his friend to find Raku's location and tell him. The scene changes. There are mercenaries from Choi's father, who gets information about Kang's room from one of Raku's subordinates, and took the money that Choi's father had previously sent to Kang.
찾았습니다.
Then Seok-do arrived at Raku's location. Seok-do asked one of the men,
어딜 가? 까불고 있어.
Seok-do is told by Raku that he was paid by mercenaries to track Kang. As the scene changes, Seok-do asked his friend to find out who Choi's father really is, and it turns out that Choi's father is the head of a famous company, whose main business is to lend money to companies, but strangely his father never reported the loss of his son. Seok-do suspects that Choi's father sent mercenaries to kill Kang. Kang returns to his hotel room, but he feels that someone has entered his room, because he saw a freshly extinguished cigarette in front of his door. Kang asked the man who sent him, and the man answered Choi Chun-beek, Choi's father. Later, Kang called Choi's father, and threatened that if he didn't return the money he would come to Korea. Seok-do and the captain went to Kang's room, and while checking his room, they were attacked. Kang escapes. Seok-do and Captain are in the hospital. Park tells them that this time they will be deported because they have done a lot of trouble. And before that happens, Seok-do asks Park to divert the guards, so that he can interrogate one of the perpetrators. Do asked him to tell him where Kang was, and if he tells him, Seok-do promises to send him back to Korea. After being informed, they hurry to return to Korea, because Kang is going to Korea to look for Choi's father. Seok-do came to a man named Jang Isu to ask if there was a smuggling ship that came recently, because that's where Kang can come to Korea. And it turns out there is one ship coming. After that, Seok-do asked his friend to check the CCTV around the harbor, and sure enough, Kang was in Korea. The next day, Seok-do and other police officers attend Choi's funeral. Seok-do got the news that Kang's car was found, but the car was cleaned before it was dumped, so they didn't find any traces. The scene changes, and in the elevator he told his name to Choi's father.
강혜성입니다.
Kang's friends also slaughtered all of Choi's father's guards who were in the car. One of the police officers saw Choi's father being kidnapped. He immediately rushed to chase but failed. Choi's mother got a video, which contained Choi's father's torture and demanded a ransom. Kang called back Choi's mother and asked to bring the ransom money alone, without any police. Choi's mother argued that she couldn't drive, so she needed a driver, so Kang allowed it. Seok-do thought about who would be a good driver, and was forced to ask Jang Isu to be the driver, because if they used the police, they were worried that they would get caught. While following Jang Isu's car, the police also searched for the location of Choi's father. One of the police officers found Kang's car but not Choi's father, so he decided to check the surrounding buildings, and while checking the building, he managed to find Choi's father. But when he was about to leave the building, Kang appeared from behind and stabbed him. Fortunately, the backup police arrived and they managed to secure Choi's father. Although Kang managed to escape again, Seok-do then called Jang Isu to tell him that Choi's father was saved. And Seok-do also informed that there was a car following them. Knowing that he had a lot of money, Jang Isu tried to run away with the money. Choi's mother was chased by one of the perpetrators into a shopping store, but fortunately Seok-do was there too. Jang Isu was happy because he had managed to get away with the money, but suddenly a car hit him from behind, which turned out to be Kang's car. Later, Seok-do was told that Jang Isu had made off with the money. Seok-do asked the police to issue arrest warrants for Kang and Jang Isu. Kang saw on television that Jang Isu was carrying stolen money and was planning to smuggle it into China. Hearing that, Kang knew that he had to go to the port that he had previously used to return to Korea. Jang Isu called the shipmaster to prepare a ship to China. After that, Kang came and threatened the ship's manager. Jang Isu threatened and challenged Kang to one-on-one, but when he pulled out his machete, Jang Isu got scared and gave up. After seeing Kang running away on the bus, Jang Isu called and told the location of Kang's destination, and in the middle of the road, suddenly there was a Seok-do who stopped the bus.
어머니, 벨 눌러.
Because it was too messy, and the police had arrived, Seok-do ran away for fear of being scolded by his captain. Jang Isu got a call from Seok-do and thanked him for helping catch Kang. The last scene, Seok-do and his friends are celebrating the success of their task. Movie ends. The film actually contains elements of comedy, which is very funny, so I always remind you to watch the film in full, and not just look at the recap. That's all. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, afición. Este es para vosotros. ¡Sí!